college Halloween parties are a lot more risque than the average party. I'd never knowingly been in a room with someone who was being paid for sexual acts. I was about to experience something that legitimately scared me, but everything was about to get worse. It's time to find out how I stopped a potential murder. With important info for new college students, roommates of all kinds, or anyone living with someone for the first time. Let's get into this. Lesson 1. Take warning signs seriously enough to act before disaster strikes. All right, let's jump through time a little bit here. We're still in my first semester, but let's highlight a few key moments that changed how I saw college, roommates, and my own safety. To start off, on October 7th, I released a video using stock footage we'd shot in Nice. The city didn't appear in Carpe Diem because it would have complicated the plot too much, but I was proud of the shots and wanted people to see them. On October 10th, my boss at the Office of Communications asked if I was free for a lifestyle photo shoot for the college. I agreed, and one of the photos ended up on the cover of one of the Whittier College planners, though I only found out about that when someone showed it to me, but still thought it was pretty cool. I've always loved Halloween, so on October 20th, I went to a Halloween-themed party called O Haunt. I wasn't quite sure what to go as, though, so a friend group that I'll be referring to as the ALN crew decided to dress me up as someone named Kevin Federline, apparently Britney Spears' ex, but I'd never heard of him before. I managed to find a couple photos of that. I also found out that college Halloween parties are a lot more risque than the average party. There were some weird costumes, some sexy costumes, and some scary costumes, but little did I know, I was about to experience something that legitimately scared me only 2 days after that. I was still getting used to college life. I was splitting a dorm room with 2 people I just met. I no longer had any family nearby, but food was now guaranteed because of the cafeteria, and everyone wanted to make new friends, so there were lots of pros and cons. Like I mentioned in previous episodes, I quickly found myself wanting to meet people, find jobs on campus, and attend the events that took place, and I tried to get involved as best I could. I joined some groups on campus and felt like I was kind of establishing a place for myself, but I had one big issue. One of my roommates was different. I've been using full names a little more because of some of the people I'm talking about are trying to make it in entertainment, and they say, any publicity is good publicity, so if I'm saying names, it's only in an attempt to lift people up. This is not one of those cases. So for both clarity and anonymity, the good roommate is K and the bad roommate is Lion. We moved in back on September 1st, right? By September 4th, I had written, over the next few days things were fine, but we began to notice that Lion slept and awoke at odd hours, and he didn't seem to have many friends. He often said racist things that just made me uncomfortable, and he seemed to dislike most of my friends, so we didn't spend much time together. I think it's important to bring up that since this was a very racially diverse college, you'd assume that slurs might be avoided, but you would be dead wrong. I heard the N-word said more often than ever when I got to college. I heard a good amount of white people say it. I heard lots of black people say it. I heard plenty of Latino people say it. I heard Asian people say it, indigenous people say it. I even heard Pacific Islanders say it. But most people were using it casually like bro or dude and ended it with an A. But Lion, he said it with real anger and judgment, and he ended it with a hard R. It was a clear, obvious difference that he was actually looking down on a group of people, and he often spoke about women with that same kind of demeaning tone of voice. Within the first 2 weeks, he'd hired another freshman girl who was trying out being a prostitute. I'd never knowingly been in a room with someone who was being paid for sexual acts, or someone who was paying for sexual acts, but I was in the bunk below him trying to sleep when they did it, so this both kind of normalized the idea that a lot of people pay for sex, and also gave me a disturbing firsthand look at how poorly sex workers are often treated in the US. I also just didn't like the guy by then. I'd tried to be friendly and even get him to realize that not everyone is the stereotype he thinks they are, but he'd said multiple racist and sexist things loudly without even caring who overheard in a way that just frightened me. To be associated with him was bad news. To make matters even worse, after they had sex, Lion tried to pay her the last $2 in quarters. So change started falling off of his bed as he counted coins, which went raining, or more like hailing, down to my bed and to the floor. It was like 2 or 3 a.m. and we were pissed. So back in season 3, episode 6 and season 3, episode 7, I had brought up that I was a French and Spanish tutor. And I was proud of that because my French teacher, Madame Chirol, told me that I was the youngest non-native French speaker to ever get hired by her as a tutor, at least back then. That made me feel like the Carpe Diem trip had really paid off in a number of ways because I'd only taken French 1 in high school and everything else I'd learned had been overseas. Because of that, I ended up tutoring a classmate that would go on to act in a film I directed, a woman named Amy Real. I was helping her with French homework in my dorm room one night, and Lion walked in and sat down at his desk. Amy immediately asked to move to the student lounge. Once we got there, she told me that Lion made her too uncomfortable to focus on homework. And I admitted that I'd started avoiding my room whenever he was there. I'd known that Lion was strange, but it put things in perspective to see that other people didn't even want to be in the same room with him. Lion had also taken on a habit of falling asleep between 3 and 5 a.m. and sleeping until the early afternoon. We'd tried to be quiet, but we'd accidentally wake him up a lot of the time and he'd just start cussing us out. At times he would talk to me about his life and wonder why not many people liked him. I tried to console him as best I could and tried to hide the fact that I didn't really like him either, but, he didn't like a lot of other people. It made sense that they didn't like him back. In the beginning, I wanted to be friends with him and get along, but he yelled at me, he made fun of and disrespected people I liked, and he made comments about the body parts of my female friends that were just downright obscene. So I didn't enjoy his company at all. A few days later, I sat down to eat lunch at the CI, and Lion sat down at the table next to me, put his forehead down on the table, and stayed there until I had to leave for work. I had no idea what was going on. He didn't want to talk about it, and he got a lot of weird looks from the people around him. I'd gotten into the habit of going to the school's weight room every other day or so. I'm in college, gotta have muscles, gotta make gains, gotta be swole. But that day, Lion asked if he could come with me. I didn't really know how to say no, so he tagged along. But he was wearing slacks, a dress shirt, and a tie, so they turned him away at the door and told him to come back in athletic clothes. Not the time to be professional. By then, I just didn't like being seen with Lion in public. Just interacting with him felt like a daily chore, but I also felt bad for the guy. He asked me to walk back with him, and I did, but honestly, that was mostly because I didn't want him getting angry with me. Living with him was already hard enough. Another time, he changed my alarm clock while I was sleeping, so it would wake him up 2 hours earlier so he could get somewhere on time, but he didn't reset the alarm to when I was supposed to get up. So I missed breakfast, wasn't able to shower, and only made it to class because Kay woke me up when he realized what had happened. Whether it was intentional or not, it became clear that Lion had begun to have a negative effect on my daily life. He kept me awake at night by slamming doors and loudly paying for sex at 3 a.m. He changed alarms, he yelled out slurs when he got angry, and overall, he made it harder for me to get to class and harder to stay awake during class. But everything was about to get worse. He brought that same woman back to our dorm room, this time while Kay was asleep in bed, and started having sex with her on Kay's desk. Obviously, he woke up, and the dorm room was not very big, and the bed was about the same height as the desk. So he opened his eyes to see them going at it like 3 feet from his face. Now, you'd think that maybe Lion would apologize, maybe move to her room or a bathroom or something. Instead, as soon as he woke up, Lion yelled at Kay to get out. To add insult to injury, Lion had porn playing on a laptop that he set down on the woman's stomach so that he could stay hard while they had sex. And when he moved the computer, she had a visible burn mark from the laptop battery just below her belly button. This whole situation caused a massive argument between Lion and Kay that they never recovered from. That fight was so intense that afterwards Lion called me and said the words, "I'm going to kill him." But this next part is going to need an episode of its own, so tune in next week to find out what happens.